Hey folks, Eric Bray, Focus Fishing Guide Service. Got another video fishing report for you for Table Rock Lake. It is Tuesday, January 31st, last day of January. Getting that much closer to spring and springtime fishing. As far as our water temperature is concerned, we are still right around that 47 to 48 degrees. It was a little bit cooler this past week, had a lot more wind, but the water temperature really didn't drop that much. 46, 47, 48, seen as high as 49 on some days, but for the most part you're in that mid to upper 40s still. Don't know unless we get some really cold weather if it's going to drop much farther than that all this year. Lake level really hasn't changed that much. The Corps has been running a lot of water, but they have been running all the lakes in the chain. It seems like when they run Table Rock, they run Beaver. So really the only lake that's dropping that much is Beaver, a little bit of Bull Shoals, but we're still at 907 and change. Unless we get some significant rain or if something changes that they quit running water, I don't see us moving much, at least not in the next couple of weeks. We need some rain, we need to bring the lake up a little bit. But fish are biting, doing pretty good every day. Was out 3 days last week. And pretty windy this past week. It's kind of let up these last couple of days, but it was pretty darn windy this past week, but it was a consistent wind. Almost every day blew directly out of the west to the northwest, so it made a difference. It really helped position the fish. But if you guys are coming down, say you're going to fish the lower end of the lake, the lower end continues to be the toughest portion of the lake. I think the amount of current they're running is affecting that a little bit, and the shad are getting harder to find on the lower end of the lake. Not exactly sure what's changed so much, but I know that the amount of current they've been running has pulled the shad out towards the main lake. It's made the shad harder to find. They've been situating themselves a lot deeper, anywhere from 70 to 100 feet deep. So it's made it harder to fish for them. Have been catching a few deep, scuba spoon, Rapala ice jig, and a drop shot. Most of those fish are coming in the guts of the creeks, in treetops or around treetops. I say treetops and everybody thinks I'm talking right up in the tops of the trees, but really they've been deeper into the trees. If you're fishing where you've got a lot of trees, you're better off using a drop shot rig with like a shad shaped worm and dropping it down into the tree. You'll see the fish down in there and work at it that way. Or if you can get between the trees, there'll be fish on the bottom 50 to 70 feet deep, and you can reach those with an ice jig or with a spoon and not worry about losing it. With this constant wind, the crankbait bite's been much better. Wigglewort, rock crawler, those sort of things. We've been catching quite a few fish fishing a crankbait this past week. Especially it seems like as the water warms up later in the day, when the sun gets out, we're catching a few more. Not really having to chase the shade this time of year, but just fishing those windy banks, those east side banks where the sun's been hitting it and the wind's blowing shad up against it. Catching a lot of fish on a crankbait on the lower end. 45-degree chunk rock banks and transition banks. Those have both been really key. And then a few on a stickbait as well. Stickbait bite really hasn't turned on the way I expected it to. It seems like the stickbait bite's a little better early, crankbait bite's better in the afternoon. If you've got wind, you've definitely got a better crankbait bite than you do a stickbait bite. Go to the mid-lake and really much better bite down the mid-lake. A lot more fish coming deep. They seem to be positioned more into the creeks, more towards the mouths of the creeks, but they're in the creeks a lot better. Scuba spoon's been working, a Rapala jig and wrap, and of course a drop shot rig with a shad shape or a dream shot or a finesse worm, whatever you want to put on a drop shot. Those have all been working really well around trees, but not necessarily in the trees. A lot of fish in between trees and a lot of fish just out there in the open in the old creek channel. Most of them are coming anywhere from about 45 to 75 feet deep. Overall depth really doesn't matter, but most of the fish we're catching are a little bit deeper than I expect them to be this time of year. Great crankbait bite in the mid-lake area as well. Wigglewort, rock crawler, that sort of thing. 45-degree chunk rock banks and channel swing type banks, both are working really well with the crankbait. Wigglewort, rock crawler, basically get your boat up close to the bank in about 8 to 10 foot of water and more or less parallel the bank. A lot of fish coming. Don't work it real fast. You don't want to burn it. Get it down to the bottom and then keep it on the bottom and work it as slow as you can. But when you've got that wind blowing like we've had for the last week, a lot of fish coming on a crankbait. And the stickbait bite's a little bit better in the Kimberling City area as well. More isolated trees on steeper rocky banks really seems to be the key when you're chasing those fish with a stickbait. Megabass Vision 110 and the Spromic stick have both been really, really good in the mid-lake area. Go to the James and you've got the best stick bait bite on the lake. A lot cooler water up there. I saw as low as 43 and 44 last week up there. Most of the fish up the James really seem to be either on the main lake or in those larger creeks like Ants Creek or Piney Creek or even Woolly Creek. But the larger creeks or the main lake has been where we're catching most of the fish up there. Really good with a Megabass 110, really good with a Spromic stick. Hitting those channel swing banks, especially the ends of those channel swing banks leading into the creeks. If you got one or two trees on those, really a good spot to throw a stick bait and a crankbait for that matter. Caught quite a few on a wiggle wart and a rock crawler up that way last week as well. Again, we're targeting those chunk rock banks and those transition banks where it goes from big rock to smaller rock, even all the way to gravel. Wind is definitely a key if you're going to throw a wiggle wart or a rock crawler up that way. Solid jig bite up there too. A lot of fish coming on a jig, especially the Ants Creek area, around boat docks, in brush piles, out anywhere from about 10 to 20 feet deep. But really with the wind we had last week, it was more of a stick bait and more of a crankbait bite up the James than anything else. There are still guys catching them on an A-rig up there. Heck, they're catching them on an A-rig all over the lake. Not a big A-rig guy, so I haven't thrown it that much, but there are quite a few fish being caught on an A-rig, keeping the boat at about 25 or 35, working around isolated pieces of timber and around boat docks seems to be key with the A-rig. Go up the White River, and the White River continues to be a great spot to fish, catching a lot of fish up the White River. Baxter to around Shell Knob seems to be the best. The Kings really hasn't turned on yet. I expect it to turn on pretty hot and heavy here in the next couple of weeks, but really from Baxter to about Shell Knob's been the best area. 3 major bites up there. Is definitely a strong deep bite up there. Ice bait, jewel scuba spoon, drop shot rig, all those are working. Look for the fish to be in and around trees, anywhere from about 45 to 65 feet deep. And once you find a fish, a lot of times up there we've been finding them close to the bottom, set the hook on one, and you'll get that explosion where you get a lot of fish coming up and you can catch quite a few. Definitely a good deep bite up there. Really good crankbait bite this past week. With this west wind, it's made a big difference. Had those fish up on the bank, throwing a wiggle wart, throwing a rock crawler. Chunk rock banks and transition banks have both been really key, and a lot of fish being caught on a crankbait up that way. Really a good spot to go through our crankbait. Good stick bait bite up there too. Isolated timber on both main lake and deeper, bigger creeks. Fishing that isolated timber around channel swings and around steeper, rockier banks, like Big Creek is a good one. There's a lot of isolated timber on those steeper banks in Big Creek. A lot of fish coming on a Megabass Vision 110 and a lot of fish coming on Spromic stick up that way. So a lot of ways to catch them up the White River right now. Guys, it's finally the end of January. We have got 4 more weeks and we'll be into March and we'll really start kicking off the spring fishing season, but we're catching fish right now. A lot of fish being caught. Still got a few days open in February, so if you guys are thinking about maybe you're going to fish the Open, maybe you're going to fish the BFL, you want to get a good solid practice day in before then, great idea, give me a call. Maybe you want to learn how to fish deep, great time to come down and do that. You want to learn how to throw a crankbait or a stick bait, great idea to come down and do that, because we're catching fish on all those baits right now. But we're really having a good time catching a lot of fish. If you're thinking about doing it, remember we're running those winter rates all the way through the end of February. Save $50 on a guide trip. Thinking about doing it, give me a call. Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me at 417-860-4743. Hit my website, focusfishing.com. Shoot me an email, book online. We'll get you hooked up, figure out the best dates and times. Really have a lot of good fishing coming up, and March and April is going to be fantastic because we're going to have a lot of shad. We're going to catch a lot of fish this spring too. But really appreciate you guys watching the videos. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I can't wait to hear from you. We'll see you on the water.